Good evening. I'm Dave Reif, and tonight we continue our special report on partnering and collaborative teaching methods emerging across America and the world to address the needs of the 21st century student. In this segment, we will uncover the most effective methods for motivating students and getting them involved in their education to get them out of the classroom and experience what they're learning through field-based learning experiences. During our investigation into this emerging trend of instructing students, we found that using this method in today's classrooms has, one, enhanced student motivation, getting them involved in things that they're interested in and giving them a reason to apply that information to a project just motivates the student better than a lot of other things that we can find in the classroom. Additionally, it improves student ability to retain core concepts that are being taught in the classroom. It's also broadened students' learning experiences and knowledge base by giving them experience with the actual product and actual project that they're working on and not just giving them information that they have to regurgitate on test. It also allows them to focus on skills and intelligences that we don't regularly see in the classroom, such as the kinesthetic learning or the actual experience of hands-on work with the subject matter or this visual or spatial, experiencing that situation in a real-world environment. Having a holistic or having respect for everything that's involved in that project to include the land and natural elements of life is another aspect that is hard to teach in the classroom. And finally, the naturalistic or the understanding of patterns of living things and applying those scientific reasoning and the scientific philosophies to the world around us. The application of basic learning methods during field-based learning activities provides the students with the most opportunity for success. To begin, the teacher relinquishes the role of being the all-knowing and the purveyor of information and assumes a role of more of a coach or a guide while delegating the role of teacher to the students. The teachers will work with the students to guide them through the learning process by setting goals and developing guiding questions for the students to answer during their field experiences. And while it might seem that the teacher is abandoning total control of the classroom, they're actually using controlled activities to allow the students to use the available technology to reach their established learning objectives. In this sense, the student becomes the researcher, and he uses the technology and other resources around them to apply logical and critical thinking to the project to come up with a solution. It's the teacher's responsibility to know their students, determine the activities that will motivate each one of those students, group the students into diverse groups that can use each student's strengths and weaknesses for the betterment of the team, and then ensure that the work being produced meets the expectations and standards laid out by the teacher. In field-based learning, the students will work in groups to examine and define the problem or the question posed by the teacher, and then figure out what they need to learn and how to acquire that information to be able to, they will explore what they already know about the subject, answer the question, the ultimate question that the teacher provided at the beginning of the lesson. They will evaluate possible ways to solve the problems, and then eventually they will come to a solution and solve the problem. There are some obstacles to this method of training. One, students aren't always interested in what it is that you're teaching or what it is that you're trying to get them to do. And when they're not interested, they're not going to put forth maximum effort, and that student apathy will prevent them from finishing the project. There's also the possibility of low productivity, rolls over into low productivity and poor quality. This form of instruction requires giving the student choice and autonomy in what they do, how they do it, what they use, how they interact with other people. All of that in the production of the project is given over to the student, and that gives them power. It gives them power to determine how much they're going to produce, and it gives them power to determine if they're just going to meet the minimum requirements or if they're going to go above and beyond like you would want them to do. This type of training also requires community relationships. There needs to be collaboration and cooperation between students and community experts to successfully meet the requirements of the field-based learning experience. Students are responsible to fulfill their responsibilities in that relationship, but you also need community involvement, and balancing the two out is a very delicate balancing act because there's not always enough community experts that want to be involved. Then once they do get involved, making sure that the students are upholding their end of the bargain is another issue all in itself. While students enjoy the flexibility that partnering methods give them, completing a project can be a struggle. Students have a tendency to start strong, but never go back to the project to complete it. And all of these obstacles can stem from the student's lack of independence or desire to work independently to produce quality and meaningful work. And while there are many advantages to this method of instruction, there are also some disadvantages. Logistics is a lot more involved when you're going to go off campus to do a field trip. A lot of times you can't provide the opportunity that you want on campus, so you have to go off campus. And this requires arranging for bus transportation, gathering permission slips from parents, coordinating with the venue to be visited, and all those things is more challenging and requires more work of the teacher than just coming in the classroom and teaching a lesson. It's also more expensive. Everything costs money these days, and unfortunately, the field trips, one of the first things that gets cut from any school budget to make the budget balance. Finding creative ways to do those kind of things and provide the field-based learning experience for the student is a key function of the teacher. Teachers also have limited field experience. Most of the certifications that they have do not require any field experience to get that certification, and because they haven't got the experience, they're intimidated and often don't want to give that same kind of experience to the student because they've never experienced it and they're just intimidated by it. So they try to improvise in the classroom and just make it work. But finally, there's safety and behavior concerns, when you go to the field. Falling off a cliff has a lot more riding on it than falling off of a chair. The circumstances are a lot more severe out there in the field than they probably would be in the classroom. And because of that, that is one of the disadvantages that teachers have to overcome when they are preparing for a field trip. Despite the obstacles and disadvantages of field-based learning, the impact that it can have on the education of a student to learn and apply the learning in a real-world situation more than compensates for its distractors. This is Dave Reif reporting here in Priceville, Alabama for WASU News.